Aloha everybody, this is Dave Wallace coming to you from my home here in Wahiawa, Hawaii, and it's story time. It's been a while since I shared a story with you, and I like to share this story that goes back to the year right around 2000. During this time period, I was still working as a teacher, and during my spare time, I was hired by families to tutor their children who were having difficulty with their homework. So after school, I would go to people's homes and tutor their children after a long day of work. So that was my job, okay? So this particular family who called for my assistance was a military family, and they lived in the Aliamanu Military Housing in the Aliamanu crater in Moanalua. For those of you not too sure where this is located right across the street from Kaiser Permanente Hospital and not too far away from the Pink Lady itself, Tripler Hospital. Okay, Tripler Military Hospital. So inside this crater, you have this beautiful housing complex for military families. Now, before I went there, I knew of the sacredness of this place because Aliamanu Crater also has a important cultural destination actually for spirits, and it's a leaping part of this Aliamanu Crater has a leaping spot where spirits would go and make the leap into the afterworld. So I realized that this place would be spiritually very active. Yeah. And so on my first time into the crater, I am sensitive enough and akamai enough to ask permission. So my first time driving through the gate, as soon as I entered the gate and went up the road a bit, I stopped the car, went out, and I did a chant introducing myself to the area, who I was, and stating my business in the area. And I was there to help children and assist families. So that was my kuleana there. And so when I got through and drove away, I felt like a very calm, peaceful, restful feeling. And finally, when I went to the home, and the military homes are all built the same way. They're kind of like duplexes. Some of them are quads where there's 4 units built together. Most of them are duplexes where they built homes side by side. And when you enter their units, you're entering basically into their living room and kitchen area. And there's a garage off on the side, and upstairs you're going to have their bedrooms. So this is the situation they had. So this family had 2 children, husband and wife, and they were both associated with the military, and they asked me to take care of the kids. Well, when I first got there, and I opened the door and I introduced myself, who I was, as soon as I stepped into the door of this home, I felt the presence kind of like just push against me as if they didn't want me there. Something in the home did not want me there at all. Okay? And so it pushed. And so I said, no, I have the right to be here. I was invited here. So I kind of like overlooked that and started working with the children. And so that initial impression, like I knew that there was something in the home that wasn't right. Okay. And so I didn't mention anything. I didn't want to frighten the family. I didn't want to say anything to them until I got to know the family. And sure enough, after about 3 times going over there, and the family started to relax around me, and I told the kids to call me Uncle, Uncle David. So they started calling me Uncle David, and we started having a good time. And I finally was invited to stay after one of the 2 tutoring sessions. I was invited to stay and have a meal with them. And so the father had prepared rabbit for us, and so we ate rabbit and collard greens and all kinds of southern delicacies. It was really good. So while we were eating the meal, I started looking at the husband and the wife, and I knew that there was tension in the air. And so I asked the husband, I says, "Is everything okay in the home?" And he kind of like backed off a bit, like I cussed at him. I said, "No, I'm not accusing anything, but there's a sense of uneasiness every time I step inside the home. Is there something you folks sense in the home?" And the husband kind of looked at me and I says, "You can feel that?" I said, "Yeah, I can sense that there's something in the home that doesn't like me." He's been trying to push me out from the first day I came in. And is everything okay in the home? Then the father started telling me, "You know what? Ever since we started moving, ever since we moved here in the home, every time we're in our bedroom, my wife and I get into an argument. It can be over stupid things." And I looked at him and I said, "Yeah, most arguments are over stupid things." It's not unusual. I said, "No, but these arguments go crazy." And I look at the kids and they go, they go crazy. They go sideways real quick. So, so I turned to the kids and I asked them, "Are you folks feeling or seeing anything unusual in this house that you folks haven't seen before?" And the uh, the sister, who's older, she says, "You know what? There's this angry white man that comes into my bedroom once in a while, late at night, and he's angry and he wants to throw me out of the room." And I asked her, "Well, what do you do?" She says, "Well, I pray to Jesus to come and save me and cover myself up. And after praying to Jesus, the man leaves." This is very good. Okay, so this is a really good strategy for you. So I talked to the family and come to find out that all of them were experiencing the same thing. It's just that they weren't conversing with each other. The parents knew what was going on, the kids knew what was going on, but they weren't communicating to each other. So around the dinner table, this was the first time they began to discuss things. And both parents looked at me and says, "Dave, do you know what to do for something like this?" I says, "Well, I can try and help you folks, but in order to help you, I need to find out what's going on in your room." And so I asked permission to go into the room to kind of like just look around and sense what's in the room and see what's the right thing to do for the family. So they gave me permission. I went upstairs. I walked up to the stairs, and there, the parents' bedrooms, the door was closed. And normally, before I walk into a room, now as a kahu, before I walk into a room, I say a prayer and ask permission to step inside. But during this time, I wasn't trained that way. So I just opened the door. I just opened the door and I stepped into the room. As soon as I stepped into the room, I felt this rush of air just come right in my face. And I could hear in my spiritual ears somebody yelling at me, "Who the are you?" Yeah, I left out that bad word. And I stepped back and oh, somebody's really angry. And again, he says, "Who the are you?" And so I backed out of the room and I says, "You know what, I'm sorry. Let me start again." And that's when I prayed to God and asked God for protection. And I'm just there to help the family to find out what is going on and how we can help and resolve this issue in the home. And this is the first time, as soon as I got through praying, this is the first time I felt like the proper thing to do is to stick my hand inside the bedroom and feel the wall. And when I touched the interior of the wall, I just placed my hand and I closed my eyes and I told myself to show me what happened in this room that's making this room the way it is right now. And as I closed my eyes, I could see a very large white man, clean shaven, bullet head, wearing a uniform. And on his shoulders, I could see stripes. So it was a sergeant, high ranking sergeant. And he was angry. He was depressed. He was just a mess, mentally, physically, emotionally. And no matter what people did, he was always like that. And some of the things that he did inside the room to his wife, he should have been arrested and put in prison for. And it was terrible. And he also carried that same thing to his children. He beat his children. And there was nothing that the military did. Okay. So all of this action that went on in that home, all of this action that happened to the family that was living in there. And as I look at the uniform that was being worn, the uniform was different. Probably go back to the Vietnam era. I don't know how old that military housings were, that unit was, but these were older uniforms, not like the uniforms that people were wearing during the time. So I knew this was old pent up energy. So after discovering this and after seeing this, I entered the room and asked God to help me determine what's the best action for this. And what I was shown was that we needed to pray and guide this spirit who's been trapped in this room. And apparently he died in the room. Not too sure if it was a suicide or natural causes. But the way he was behaving, his death seemed to be unnatural. Okay? So I called the family together and took them into the room and we prayed and I asked God to come in and guide this spirit who's trapped in this room, guide him to the light and take him and show him the way where he needs to join his ancestors, where he can be happier and deal with his past much better. Okay? So after we did that, I instructed the family on how to clear the home, and that is by constantly praying every morning, every evening, and opening up the rooms and allowing the air to flow through the home, allowing the light to enter the home. So you needed to open up the curtains and allow the light to shine in and allow the wind to come in to carry the energies away. So for about a week, the family was doing this, and I was calling them almost every night to see how things were progressing. And for that week that I was calling them, everything was fine. So by the time I finally went back, everything was really good. No fighting, no visitations from an angry spirit. And the house, when I walked in, it felt really nice and clean and welcoming. You could feel the love of the current family. So after tutoring some more for about a month, About a month later, I'm sitting in tutoring, and there's a knock at the front door, and the father runs to the front door and invites his neighbors, the husband and wife who live right next door. And as soon as they come in, and he calls me to their living room, and so I walk out, and so you have a husband and wife, the neighbors looking at me and ask me, "Are you the kahuna that got rid of the spirits?" And I said, "I'm not a kahuna. No, 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 I'm not a kahuna." So I asked him, "Why?" He says, "We have the same kind of problems happening in our unit. Can you come and help us?" So I said, "Sure, I'll come by and help you as soon as I'm done tutoring. I'll come by and check your unit out and see what we can do for you." And sure enough, when I went over, same kinds of pent up energy was locked inside the unit. And as I began thinking about this situation, I had to remind myself where I was. I was in a military housing. These are soldiers who are trained killers, and some of these people have done things that they live to regret, and they bring home these guilt, these feelings and anxieties. So they bring it back home, and they leave it wherever they go. So some of these energies were layered and layered and layered and layered, and all trapped inside of a home, waiting to be released. I tutored this one family for almost 8 months, almost an entire school year. And while by the time I finished tutoring this family, I cleared 4 units that were really close to each other, that were having the same kind of problems. Okay? And just recently, it's been brought to my attention that I live here in Wahiawa, and it's right next to 2 military housing in Hickam and Schofield. And the same kinds of things that reported that was happening in Aliamanu crater, this is coming out, same kind of things happening in both Hickam and Schofield. Okay? So these places need a lot of help. In fact, the military should strongly consider getting people to clear out the home spiritually and energetically before they move in a new family. Otherwise, the same kind of issues that going to create problems in the families, fighting, arguments, and all kinds of different things that's happening, it's going to continue. Okay? So the military need to really consider that. And if you're in a military family and you are experiencing something like that, then I strongly recommend you to go see a cultural practitioner. Like here in Hawaii, it would be good to call someone like us a kahu, or a spiritual leader of your faith, to come in and bless the place and release the energy. Okay, so anyway, this is my story, and I'm glad to share this with you, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoy a story, please subscribe. If you know people that would like to hear these things, please share it with them. Okay? And just a reminder, I do have a book out, and it's called The Journey of Our Souls, and it's available on Amazon. And also, if you want a hard copy, you can look at my website, thejourneyofursouls.com. Okay, this is Dave Wallace saying mahalo for watching, and take care until next time. Aloha.